Hi, everyone. It's Jael Rothstein here, author of the Heaven Sent series. My book, Atonement, is out now. You can get it on Amazon or you can check it out on my website at jaelrothstein.com. Thanks for joining today. I am super excited. I have award-winning published author Shannon Condon. Welcome to the show, Shannon.
Thank you very much, Jen. I'm so glad to be here. I appreciate you inviting me.
This is very exciting. I can see that you have your books behind you. They look
do.
amazing, and I want to hear all about it. So please tell the audience all about the Magdalena series.
Okay, well, about 6 years ago, I had a major life change, but it gave me the opportunity to kind of reassess what I wanted to do. And I've always been a writer. That's what I went to college for. But, once you graduate, you have to get a job and life starts, and you don't get to necessarily sit down and write a novel. So I really did mostly poetry. But in 2014, I came up with the idea for Maggie, who is the protagonist throughout the series, and Magdalena is her actual name. And she had grown up all across Europe because her mother was from Spain and her father was from the United States, but he was an adjunct professor at colleges all over Europe. He was a specialist in global economics. So she always traveled with them. And when she started high school, she went to a boarding school so that she would be in one place for all 4 years of high school. And soon after she gets to the boarding school, and this isn't a spoiler because this is actually part of the blurb, her parents are killed in a car accident. So she's orphaned. And finding Magdalena is really her finding herself and trying to figure out her new normal and how she's going to get through being on her own. She has friends, but she doesn't have any family that she knows of. So she copes, most of us, when we lose control of all the externals, we control ourselves because it's the only thing that we can have control over.
Yep.
So she tries to be perfect at everything that she does and tries to keep really busy, and that's how, and organized and kind of OCD, that's how she handles it. And she also suffers from anxiety and has anxiety attacks.
Which would be understandable in the situation.
Right. And that follows her throughout the arc of all 4 books. So she goes to Spain and she actually finds her mother's estranged family. And she's so excited because that's what she wants, is family. But it does have her make some poor choices because she wants to please them. So she makes some poor choices. And then in the Brotherhood, she actually, through her friend at boarding school, through his through his stepfather, she gets recruited for Black Ops because she is so detail oriented and she has an affinity for being an assassin. So she has
that's unusual, but okay.
It is. I had a professor in college that always told me, write what you know. And no, I don't know anything about being an assassin in Black Ops, but a lot of character traits that, are either reflect me or traits I wish I'd had that, I've imbued on Maggie. So the Brotherhood brings her to Milan and she gets kind of embroiled in this secret society, and her Black Ops team, that's their mission. And then in Spider's Web, she basically has to go into hiding. She's been in hiding for 3 years because she made a lot of people angry in Europe, by taking down this society. And in Spider's Web, she gets kind of lazy, and after 3 years of hiding out at home, she thinks, I want to go back into the real life. So she and her adopted mother go on a beach weekend, and she's immediately kidnapped.
Oh my gosh.
Doesn't know who's kidnapped her, doesn't really know why. She's separated from her team. And in that novel, it's very pivotal for her because now she is an adult. She's also a mother and a wife. And her husband's on the team, her Black Ops
That's
team.
complicated.
It's kind of a family business. She has her adopted father, her husband, so they all kind of work together on this. And so Spider's Web, she has to work on her own because she's separated and has to try to get free, and they have to try to free her. And a lot of things happen during the novel. Someone's taken a contract out on her life, which is why she was kidnapped. And then through the course of getting out of that situation and trying to get back home to Virginia, she loses a loved one. And that sets
More
the
loss.
stage.
That's tough. More loss. So you've really taken this main character and put them in quite not only a precarious situation, but really put them through the ringer, so to speak.
She goes through a trauma in every book. And what I really wanted to do was show the human side, like, yeah, you can be Black Ops and you can be James Bond, but by making her a woman, I wanted to say, well, one, a woman can do it because she's powerful enough, but two, she also has a lot of emotions, and Maggie carries a lot of baggage, and she's also subject to more traumas, like more physical abuses than a man would be, that she has to overcome, and then she has to power through and get back to her leadership in Black Ops. So in Subterfuge, it pits her against the last person who has a responsibility for the death of her loved one. So for her, it's a matter of revenge. She's always been able to keep her family life and her business life, we'll call it her business, separate. But in this book, she just has tremendous revenge on her mind, and it shows the internal struggle of her staying professional through the mission that they've been given, and also the toll that it takes on her. And really, her two worlds collide, her family and her business world collide, and that causes a lot of angst for her, and it also causes a lot of self-reflection. So I don't want to give away too much of the
no, definitely not. We want everybody thinking about this and going out and checking out the books and hopefully buying lots of books. But you've hit along a lot of common themes, right? You put the person in conflict. They have loss that they're experiencing. But you're at the same time, you're showing a very strong female lead who's going on her own hero's journey. Where she's starting from beginning to end.
She's staying true to herself, which is what I wanted to show. But I also wanted to show the mental health aspect, that her anxiety doesn't go away. I mean, that's something that she battles every day. And usually with her missions, she's able to put that aside until she comes home, and then she kind of unleashes all of her anxiety and everything that she has. That and her need for everything to be organized, and so the things, that coping mechanisms that she learned when her parents died have followed her through. And I think that has helped her get through the traumas that she suffers. Because poor Maggie, each book she does have a trauma. there is something that happens in each book to her. But that's what makes it interesting. And I like to have lots of twists and turns in my books, and keep readers guessing as to who the villain is, what's going to happen, what the outcome is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a thriller, and there's a lot of action, and it's very fast paced, but that's always the trick with writing a thriller, is to throw something in that you're hoping they didn't see coming, right? That's always the art part of it, of what you're doing, the difficult part of it, of what you're doing. So those sound amazing and very exciting, and congratulations, all 4 are out, so people can go and check them out now if they're thriller readers and they're interested, and it sounds very intriguing. They can go and they can check them out anywhere books are sold, but obviously Amazon with this COVID world.
Amazon.com is the main one that they're on, and Barnes & Noble that they're on. And Subterfuge is the newest. It came out July 31st.
Wow. So that's not that long ago.
Not that long ago, no. And it's really the culmination. I mean, of course I left a cliffhanger, because you always have to leave it on a cliffhanger, but it really shows any one of them could stand alone, but
Mhm.
it's just more enriching when you read all four in
Yeah.
order, because you see her development from a 15-year-old girl to a 26-year-old
Yeah.
woman,
Yep.
you know.
And I like what you said about the anxiety, that, it doesn't go away, because obviously those issues and problems that we have, even as ourselves as authors, they're not light switches. We can't flip them off. We can't shut them
No,
off and just have them go away and hope that because we're doing this one thing means we're not experiencing something or some level of that. So that is very intriguing. I think it's very different. Haven't heard anything like that. So that sounds very exciting. I hope people watching will go and check them out. So let's jump into your
thank you.
questions,
Okay.
which I'm very excited to talk to you about, which is really more focused on writing itself and the process of writing. So your
Mhm.
first question surrounds motivation. So what motivates you to keep writing?
For me, writing has always been very cathartic.
Mhm.
It's something, I don't draw. I don't have a lot of craft skills, but writing is something that I've always been able to do. And ever since I was in my early teens, I kept a journal of poetry, and I, wound up with a couple volumes, and a lot of
Yep.
it wasn't very good, but it got better as,
Yep.
years went by. And I always wanted to write a novel, and I had gone to college, and I got my degree in journalism and communications, thinking I'm going to be a writer. And then, life happens, and you don't
Yeah.
necessarily have the time with, kids
Yep.
and everything, and being a single mom. But when I did have the opportunity to sit down and write Finding Magdalena, it didn't really occur to me that I was writing a series. I was writing
Mhm.
this book that had been in my head. And,
Yep.
as an author, when you get
Yeah.
characters in your head and you get an idea in your head,
Yep.
it just doesn't leave you alone.
Mhm.
So I really worked a lot of the details out in my head before I started writing. And then it kind of just organically, flowed. And when I started getting reviews back, which was so exciting, because
Mm.
just publishing a book
Yeah.
that people are reading
Yeah.
that aren't related to you is really exciting. And people would say, "Oh, I can't wait to read the next book." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I guess
You
I
better
need to
get to
write
work.
another book." So it's wound up being 4 books, and I will come back to it. Right now, going to take a little bit of a break from the Maggie series, because after 4 books, I know the characters so well, and I just kind of want to give them some time to,
Yeah.
settle.
Yeah, sometimes you have to let them kind of roam around in your head a little bit until they
Yeah,
come back to
ruminate a
you.
little bit.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
want to, when it comes back, I want a really good book, not just like, okay, let me just throw
right.
something together for the 5th book in the series. And I
Yeah.
wanted to expand a little bit.
Yeah, I think if you're forcing it, right, then it reads like it's forced. So always a better
Exactly.
option. Always a better option to take that break and seek out something else. And then obviously to be creative, you can write something in a different genre or a completely different story.
Well, that's what, I plan to do. And but for me, it's, if even one person, reads it and something touches in
Yep.
them, like, I've had a couple reviews where they've said that they appreciated the mental health part of the
Yep.
book and how I dealt with it. Um, it's so rewarding to hear
Yeah.
someone say that, because, you touch them in a way that you didn't expect to, or you didn't know if that was going to happen, how people would receive it. So it was very exciting. And I won a Literary Titan Gold Award for Subterfuge, and a Literary Titan Silver Award for Spider's Web recently.
Excellent.
So that was
That's
very exciting.
Yes, that's very exciting. Congratulations. That is a wonderful
Thank
achievement.
you. Thank you.
And obviously that helps with the motivation too, right? Your recognition
Yeah,
and
it does.
motivating you to go
It does,
forward.
because, writing is not something you do to make a lot of money.
Right.
Something you do because you love to do it. And it's for me to sit down and write. I love doing it. So
Hmm.
it's not really like working.
Right.
The editing and proofreading, that's a little bit more work. That's where the work comes in.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where we need to find our courage, right? Is to get through
Yes.
that part and to be brave enough to understand that there's issues and we can always be better, and to take that in the best possible positive light
Mhm.
that we could we could take it in. It can be very difficult. So where did you get the idea for the story, though? Did that just come to you? Was it in a dream? Did you see a movie? What sort of?
No, I came up with Maggie first because what I was going through at the time, and I have a big family and I have lots of family support, but I thought, what if there was someone at such a pivotal age, being 15,
Yep.
because you're in your teens and in high school. And I thought, what would happen if a girl was in this situation and she lost her family? I mean, how would she cope?
Yeah.
And I kind of started, working with that in my mind. And from there, developed the story and, the arc of the story. And of course, left it on a cliffhanger, kind of, or left an opening for there to be a sequel if it was well received.
Right.
So
yeah, and that's what you mean by it's a complete story. You can read it, you can be satisfied as the story, but if you really loved that character, you left it open so that people could be saying, oh, I'd love that character enough to want to read more about this character and what happens.
Yeah, I love all my characters. It's I was told once that your characters kind of take over and drive the story.
Yeah.
And it's true. I mean, I used to think, gosh, that sounds really like maybe you got voices in your head or something. But
I think we do have voices in our head.
Yeah, really, they do. And they're like, okay, stop what you're doing and write.
Yeah.
But I really liked her character so much, and I wanted to develop her into an adult. So I could show how you can survive traumas, because that was very important to me, to show that women can survive traumas. I mean, men have traumas too, but you can survive, you can overcome it, and you can still become a confident person.
Right. I think that's an excellent message. So for your next question, I asked about if you could go back and talk to your younger self, what is the piece of advice that you would give to your younger self? One piece, two pieces of advice, but what would be the big thing that you would tell yourself?
I came across a quote not too long ago, and it's anonymous, but essentially it says that your worth or your value does not depreciate because of someone's inability to recognize it. And I would go back to myself in high school and I would tell myself that, because back then I was so worried what everyone else thought and never really wanted to put myself out there. I tend to be introverted. And
you're doing really well. You are not coming across introverted. You are coming across totally approachable and totally open. So
well, thank you.
I'm very excited about that.
But just to have that confidence, I think a lot of times when you're at that age, you need someone to tell you, follow your dreams, do what you want to do.
Yeah.
The worst that can happen is that you make a mistake. And I tell my kids, I'm like, mistakes are how you learn. And I encourage them to go and seek out their dreams, what they want to do, and to travel too, because I've tried to travel to most of the locations where my books take place.
Yeah, so I read that. I read that on your Amazon profile, and I was that's very intriguing. So you try to go everywhere, and I've read that about other authors as well. So you try to go there to immerse yourself in that environment, so that your writing is more authentic or more approachable.
It's more authentic, and you get more of a feel for what their life would be like. I mean, plus it helps to know the food, which is one of my favorite parts. The food and the wine.
Yeah.
But also because the streets, like you can be more specific with, plazas and streets, especially in Spain. I took 2 trips there, which I was fortunate to do. And I was very excited to explore the city of Malaga, where her family is from, and get a real feel for it. And hopefully that relayed in the book, where readers got an idea for the authenticity of where she was and what she was doing. And just other places like Ireland, adding in, that's in one of my books. And my upcoming book is set in Boston. And I spent so many summers growing up in Boston that I just love it. And I really wanted to set my book there.
Yeah, that's so exciting. Obviously, my hometown, so I'm rooting for that as well. Be
Yes.
keeping an eye out. Um, but I love that piece of advice. I love going back and if we could tell our younger self to try to be more confident and not afraid to make mistakes, that we grow the most
Right.
in our mistakes than we do in anything else. And I'm a little bit older now, obviously, but I always look back and think to myself, I was so worried what everyone else thought in my 20s.
Exactly.
And I think we all are. And even in your teens, teens are a little different, right? It's sort of an out of control kind of environment
Right.
when
You
you're
don't
in
have
your
a whole lot
teens.
of control over
Yeah,
what you're doing.
you're sort of like, but even in your 20s, I just remember, and I remember later watching something on Oprah where she was interviewing a woman, and I feel really bad because I forget her name, but I remember the woman saying, "Oh yeah, in your 20s, you're obsessed about and worried about what everybody else thinks. And then in your 30s, you decide you're a little wiser and you decide, you know what, the only people that really matter are my inner circle. They're the people that
Right.
I'm with, my
Exactly.
neighbors, my family, that's what really matters. And then you get into your 40s and you're like, you know what, I don't care what anyone thinks about me. She's like, and then you get into your 50s and you realize no one was thinking about you. So it was really a very wise moment. It always stuck with me. It's like, it's so true. We're so outwardly obsessed, and we grow and we mature, and then we finally get to a space where we realize no one was actually thinking about us at all. And it was so wise. And I always think that to myself when people ask me, especially younger aspiring authors or young
Hmm.
authors coming up, and I said, look, I still don't know what I'm doing. I'm still learning. This is my first book. I self-published it. I'm still learning the industry. I'm still learning the craft of writing. It's not something I went to school for. I have a long way to go to get better, but I can tell you, as someone who's been through the ringer a few times, I can tell
Hmm.
you not to stress so much about what other people think. I think it's the one thing we do to ourselves, and maybe women in particular too are particularly harsh on themselves about that.
It is.
Don't,
Yeah.
worry less about that so that you can really experience everything, so that you can really live your life. If you're always living your life worried about what someone else says, you're not really living. So that's the best advice, to me, when I can give to people, because there's not a lot on the writing front, as I'm still learning it myself. But
I always just say write your own story.
yeah,
Don't try to keep up with trends, because by the time you get published, the
yeah,
trends are past. So just write your own story, and some people will love it, some people will hate it.
yeah,
You can get a 5-star and you can get a 1-star on the
yeah.
same book. Everyone brings their own baggage.
Yeah, it's
Um,
true. You're bringing your own point of view to a story when you
right.
read it, and it's jading or coloring what you're reading, and I think that that's excellent advice as well. So just to wrap up here, let's finish with the last question, which is, what's next for you?
I am writing a paranormal thriller set in Boston. And just to give a little bit of a teaser for it, there's a girl that through her dreams, she is summoned by someone to Chinatown in Boston, where she is given a handmade enamel box called the Whisper Box. And she's supposed to use it like almost like a journal, but she whispers her thoughts and her worries into it, and it's supposed to protect her. And there's consequences that she doesn't realize, and
Mm-hmm.
that she learns throughout the book, just really what the effect of her whispering into the box is doing.
Well, that sounds really exciting. Obviously, not just because it's set in Boston, but supernatural thrillers, obviously right up my alley for me.
Yes.
But but I can't wait to see more about that and hear more about that. And I can't thank you enough for coming on to the show, Shannon. This was
Thank you
absolutely
so much,
excellent.
Jen. I
This was
appreciate
so
it.
fun, and I hope everybody got something out of this. Whether it was us talking about writing or hearing about your wonderful stories and your wonderful books. And I hope people go out and check it out on Amazon, and they can follow you
And
as an author. And you have a website, I'm
I
assuming?
do. It's ShannonCondonAuthor.com. So very hard to remember, ShannonCondonAuthor.com.
Those are
I
the
tried to
easy.
make it as easy as possible.
It's the
So
best
if you,
way. It's the best way, so people
mhm,
remember you. There are some strange names out there that I can never remember to go back out and find. So keep it simple.
yes, but I would love people to check it out. And please, if you read, give me a review, or send me an email through my website, just because I like to hear from people and I like to hear what their opinions are. of the
Yeah, I think
books.
that's wonderful. And obviously, as authors, we're always asking for reviews. It's a real difference maker for us on Amazon. Amazon
It
has all
is.
kinds of
It is.
algorithms that work in the background. So when you reach certain levels, it really helps with promotion of the book and where it lands on the site and where it shows up on lists. And so all of that is really, really, really helpful. And obviously, you can check you out on Twitter. That's where we met.
Yes, on Twitter
And
at
it's,
Shannon Condon 1. That's my Twitter handle. So
yep. Yep. So that's where we met, and there's a great author community out there. So if you're a young up and coming author out there, you should join Twitter and join us in the author community. So
it's
thank you so
wonderful.
much. This was
Thank you.
wonderful. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.